Welcome, everybody. We will get started in just a few moments. Just want to allow a few more folks to come in before we get started. While we're waiting, if folks can just drop their hometown in the chat box. Just drop your hometown in the chat box so we know where everyone's from. So we have East Coast folks, a lot of West Coast folks, a lot of California folks, a lot more. Oh, some folks from the South as well. Oh, someone else other than me that's from the Midwest. Welcome, everybody.
For those of you that have just joined us, if you could put where you're from in the chat box, we're just waiting a little bit more for other folks to join.
Okay, folks, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. So I just want to welcome everybody this evening. Let's see, do we have a couple more folks coming? So we have all of our East Coast folks, a lot of California folks representing, couple of Midwest, one or two Midwestern folks right along with myself. Let me reshare my screen really quick, and we'll continue from there. So just to briefly introduce myself. Hey, Michigan, I'm from Illinois. So I just want to say welcome, potential future Bruins, or we hope to be future Bruins from rural areas and small towns. Excited to see folks from so many different places throughout the U.S. and even some folks internationally as well. Just to give you all a little bit of information about who we are. We're coming from the first year experience office, and this particular committee, started actually last year. And we really want to be able to create a home away from home for all students, faculty, and staff from rural areas and small towns. And it's been a labor of love for all of us to come together to be able to really be able to reach out to folks and to be able to connect with folks. So we do a lot of advocacy work, a lot of research, and a lot of programming as well. So one thing that we want to start with before we introduce our panelists and our moderators is to just give you all our definition, our concept of what it means to be rural or from a rural area. The biggest things from us is that we really want folks to be able to self-identify into what it means to be rural, because it can be very complex and we don't want to limit folks being able to really tap into this community. So some folks might be from small or remote communities throughout the U.S. or internationally, as I shared. Maybe they completed high school in a rural area or a small town, or attended a community college in rural areas of small towns. So regardless of where you are in the spectrum from rural areas or small towns, you fall into this space, and this is your home away from home at UCLA. Other things to understand about us as a committee, as I said before, for example, in the middle of the pandemic, computer lending, MiFi's, specifically to access Wi-Fi services and things like that, grant proposals are things that we worked diligently to be able to advocate for. Research to be able to understand the culture shock that sometimes our students are experiencing, as LA is a huge place, but also a place that, again, like you can be able to understand and come home. One thing that we have done very well this year with the support of our students and their feedback is a lot more community building. So we do monthly drop-in hours, kind of like a living room type of feel, where folks are able to get personal development, coffee chats, time with administrators, growth and development, and even self-care. And we have a Facebook group as well, as well as events like this that we do once or twice a year related to admissions. These are just some of our flyers from our events. We did a meet and greet where we had everyone from our deans to current Bruins to be able to welcome folks and to be able to offer new Bruins advice. We did a securing the job during COVID and internships, because clearly folks are looking for next steps or opportunities outside of the classroom, self-care, and really being able to set appropriate goals, and then a general like coffee chat led by Sabrina, who you'll meet shortly. So before we go on to the student panel, I actually want to pause, and I'll stop sharing my screen. I want to give the committee members an opportunity, as well as the panelists, to be able to introduce themselves to you and what their hometown is, major, so on and so forth. So I'll stop sharing my screen and turn on my video. So I'm Shalori Jones. I co-chair the Small Towns Committee. Been at UCLA for quite some time. Originally from Chicago, but I spent a huge part of my life in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois. And then I'll popcorn to Sabrina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sabrina Klein. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a fifth-year PhD candidate in the School of Education here at UCLA. And I am a rural Bruin as well. I'm from Southern Oregon, so a town called Cave Junction, Oregon. And I also serve as a committee member on the Bruins from Rural Areas and Small Towns Advisory Committee. And I will popcorn to Scott.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Wilson. I'm a senior assistant director in undergraduate admission at UCLA. So really great to see all of you all. I am originally from North Carolina, from a pretty small town. So the move from North Carolina to LA was really big, but really awesome at the exact same time. It's really great to have all of y'all here again. I'm really excited to see and connect you all with UCLA and learn more about you all as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Nick.
Hi everyone, I'm Nick. I use he, him pronouns, and I am from Arroyo Grande, California. I'm a third year psychology major here at UCLA, and this is my second year helping out with this, and so I'm excited to get to know you all and answer any questions that you may have. Oh, and I'll popcorn it to Andrea.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrea. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a second year African American Studies major with a minor in public affairs, and I'm from Victorville, California, which is a small desert city 2 hours northeast of LA. And now popcorn to Janet.
Hi everyone, my name is Janet. I'm a third year psych major, and I'm from Etna, California. It's like an hour away from the Oregon border. I'm really excited to share my experience with you all tonight and answer any questions you may have. And I'll popcorn it to Sakshi.
Hey everyone, my name is Sakshi. I'm a third year global studies major. I'm from Anderson, South Carolina. I'm also the president of the Out of State Student Association at UCLA. So if you're curious about that, definitely let me know. And I'll be moderating today's panel.
And then Helen or Mike.
Hi everyone, my name's Mike McCormick. I use he, they pronouns. I serve as leadership development coordinator in residential life. In my role, I advise student government. I do fun events for Hill and campus, and I co-chair the Bruins from Rural Areas and Small Towns Committee with Shlori. It has been one of my biggest joys working with this community, and I'm really glad to see so many people here deciding what next steps are. So I'm really looking forward to working with all of you. Helen, sorry, I cut you off there.
Good, don't worry about it. Hi, everyone. My name is Helen Martinez. I am a staff member over at the DASHU Center for International Students and Scholars. I've been there for about 8 years. I was an undergrad at UCLA, class of 2012. Born and raised in LA, so it's my pleasure to be here surrounded by the small town Bruins. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you all. And I joined the committee just towards the end of last fall, so I'm learning a lot. So nice to see you all.
Thank you so much. And I think we can go ahead and kick off our questions moderated by the lovely Sakshi.
All right. So our first question is, or our first prompt is, many students describe UCLA as being a culture shock, especially coming from a rural area or small town. So what was your transition like moving from your area to UCLA? And did you experience a culture shock with that? And I think we're going to start with Nick.
Yeah, so it was a huge culture shock for me. My town only has about 16,000 people, and I know there's a lot of people from towns that have even less people. And so going to UCLA was like, you know, there's 25,000 plus people on campus every day, and so that's something you get used to in and of itself. Not to mention, you know, moving out of home for the first time, but also it. The biggest thing was how people like interact here, how people like talk in LA. Like I'm sure a lot of you have the same experience. You can walk down and like the street in your town, just wave at people, and people will wave back. And then, but here in LA, I tried that the first couple weeks I was here, and I just got funny looks. So it was a little bit weird for me at first. You know, there's a lot of factors there that you have to get used to, but you know, you'll definitely get used to it by the end of your first year, if not sooner.
Andrea, do you want to go?
Yeah, so I'm only 2 hours away from Los Angeles, so I'd actually visited before, never the UCLA campus though, but it was definitely just like, oh, this is a lot of people, like all the time. There's always something going on in Los Angeles, and I think that can be overwhelming, but I was able to find like a good group of friends to be able to balance that like shock of being like, oh, this is Los Angeles, it's huge. Why is Los Angeles so huge? I feel like it should be a county or something. So that was interesting, but definitely a good adjustment, something new.
Thank you. Janet?
Yeah, so my transition was pretty different for me. I definitely experienced culture shock coming from a town of 700 people. I was not used to seeing new people every day. And also I was a minority back at my town, so coming to UCLA was definitely a shock. Seeing, just being surrounded by more Asian Americans. So, but it's a good adjustment.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that, Janet. Sabrina, did you want to talk about this, or we can also move on?
You can move on. Yeah, just focus
Okay,
on it.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So kind of related to that, pride in your hometown can be kind of complicated. Like some people really are excited to leave and some people get really homesick. So how did you keep your home pride? How did you battle homesickness? And what did you learn about yourself coming to UCLA?
For me, I wouldn't say that I was excited to go to LA. I mean, I didn't really want to go to college in LA. I've never been a big fan of it, but moving to LA, I realized that like, oh wow, I really appreciate my hometown, which is something I didn't realize before. And I had a lot of pride in where I came from, and realized a lot of things that I took for granted. So, I think in the future that I want to have somewhere that I can be proud to say I'm from, which, I can now. And, I've missed home a lot at certain points, but now that I'm at home, I'm spending time at home. Since quarantine, I've been missing LA a little bit. So, you get to, where you live grows on you, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, I was excited to get out. There's really nothing to do where I'm from, like no one to meet. Everything is far, like the neighborhoods are like neighborhoody. So like you can't do in LA is like walk to the store or walk to get something to drink or walk to eat and everything like that. So I was excited to go to Los Angeles, but like, once I was there, I did have like a couple of times I was like, oh, it'd be nice to have like somewhere quiet or like the park that I used to go to. But there's definitely more of a thing like, I'm glad to be at UCLA, to be in a bigger area with more to do, more to see.
Kind of similar to that for me. I had mixed feelings about leaving my hometown. Being in a small town was really comforting. I was really used to it. Moving to a big city seemed really intimidating to me. But I did find a good group of friends, and I was lucky enough to have my twin sister who was also at UCLA with me. So learning to appreciate the differences between your small town and LA is really important in keeping hometown pride for me.
Thank you. I definitely agree. The next question is, what are some small or unexpected things that you missed from your hometown or your area, like local stores or foods, and how were you able to find those things in LA?
For me, the biggest thing that I missed was having outdoor space. I mean, like I grew up, or where my town is, it's by the beach and it's close to like, mountains and woods. So like a lot of things that we do around here are outdoor oriented. And that's something that like I do to relax or just enjoy. And so that was really hard to find in LA. Because obviously it's a city and you have to drive to get to those things. And if you don't have a car, which I didn't, like a lot of people, that can be really hard to figure out how to get there. But over time, like I've really appreciated, there's a lot of green spaces on campus. There's a botanical garden. There's, lots of lawns and, a lot of green spaces to sit on. So you really have to appreciate the small things around you. And that's how I kind of got used to missing that.
For me, I missed, this is gonna sound silly, but I missed like the Dollar Trees from my area. You can't go somewhere in Westwood and expect to like pay less than like $3 for literally anything, toilet paper, paper towels, soap, it doesn't matter. So I missed the prices for sure, just because, LA's so bougie. I'm like, anything where I can, save money is great for me. Also as a struggling college student, but I also missed like some of the restaurants from my city. Like we had this like one like Mexican restaurant like a mile from me that my mom and I used to go to, and like some of the stuff that's unique to you because it's like family owned or simply cheap stuff, like a Walmart nearby. I also didn't have a car, so that made, getting around more difficult. So I could really only go to the areas in Westwood, and it's so expensive, but yeah.
I also really missed the nature. In my hometown, I could walk in my backyard and find myself like on the side of a mountain or just in the middle of a forest. So I definitely missed that. But moving to Westwood, I realized it's not like what I was expecting as a city. You have downtown LA that you can go visit, but Westwood's not necessarily like that big, intimidating city I was picturing. So yeah, and there's definitely hikes around LA. You're not just in the middle of a city. So that really helped with me missing nature.
Thank you. Yeah, I was really worried about not having green space when I went to UCLA, but the campus is really green, and I feel like you can make it feel like you're in nature even though you're not. So we have one more question and then we'll begin our open Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to start putting them in the chat. But our last formal question is, what did you guys like most about UCLA and why did you end up choosing UCLA?
So like I said before, I didn't want to end up in LA, but I ended up going here anyway, because when I toured, it just kind of felt right. I'm kind of someone that follows their intuition. And that was like, it just felt the most right of all the colleges I toured. But ultimately, like I'm happy with my decision in the long run, because what stands out to me the most is that there's a lot of really passionate people here. Everyone's doing something and that they're really excited about, and that's exciting to be around because that fuels you to find things that you enjoy and that you want to do. And the other thing is, there's a lot of diversity at UCLA, which is for me exciting personally because coming from a really small town, there's not a lot of diversity. So it's great to get to talk to people from different backgrounds and different experiences and learn from them.
Yeah, for me, this is going to be problematic, but I actually wanted to go to UC Berkeley, and then I was denied, so I was like, go Bruins, I guess. But when I got here, I found an amazing community I'm Black, so I went to like the Black community. We have like an African student union, and I found like amazing people there. But just even outside of that, like every organization that I like went to like a first meeting for, it was people were welcoming and kind. And like even as I'm doing like career outreach, like the alumni network is amazing, and so many people and so many things that are willing to help you. And it's literally just been the number one thing. Like I'm not too big on academics. I'm like, I'll major in something. But the people that I've met here are people who I want to stay with me for the rest of my life. And that you can't change that.
I loved the weather. Coming from somewhere where it, had really like seasonal. I really loved how it was sunny. And I loved when I visited how friendly everyone was. And also on the academic side, I came in not really knowing what I wanted to major in, but I appreciated how well-rounded the school was. and how many excellent programs they had. Like at UC Davis, it seemed a little like really ag related school for me. So UCLA definitely seemed a little bit more well-rounded.
Awesome. So I think we have a few questions in the chat now we can answer. So what are some additional tricks to combat homesickness on campus or off campus? Does anyone want to answer? Okay, sorry.
I'm so
I
sorry.
was just gonna say that for me, I'm from the South, and so I just like got to know a few Southern restaurants nearby, and so I could just like have home food when I needed to, even though that wasn't always practical. In a pinch, there's a Chick-fil-A in Westwood, and that would make me feel kind of close to home. Yeah. Do you have something to say, Andrea?
I usually just, call to my parents or like keep connected with the people from my hometown was always good for me. It was more like a check-in of like, how are you doing in college? Oh, I'm good. We're kind of struggling, like us just bonding and checking back in. That was honestly the best way for me to, keep that reminder of home.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Nick.
Sorry, I just want to add something really quick. I was just going to say, like, I second what Andrea said. Definitely keep in touch with people from back home, but also you want to make sure to take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, to find time to like do things for yourself, even if you're just so busy, which you definitely will be at points. You're just going to be like feel like you have no time, but just make the time to do something enjoyable for yourself, because that will help with homesickness a lot.
Absolutely. Another question, did the class sizes feel intimidating, and how did you adapt to the large class sizes, let alone the overall campus?
I'm gonna be brave with this one. Coming into like my fall quarter and having these large class sizes, I was like, oh gosh. And like it was kind of difficult for me to adjust to something where like, it wasn't the 30 people in my high school classroom, and like I was in a high school like from middle school to senior year, we all were the same people. But I think, like typically classes start like group me's, and then you could like meet people through there, or like talking to a couple people, making a couple jokes in class was able to like help me adjust, as well as the discussions that typically you're going to encounter with your GEs or your larger classes, in which you can, maybe talk with your TA more, which is going to be like, you're going to have like 20 to 30 people in those classes in the discussions. And then, the people in that is a way to help you adjust.
So just to add to that, what really helped me was sitting in the same spot in lecture. When you sit in the same spot, generally everyone else around you stays kind of the same. So that helps when you're meeting new people or just want to collaborate and find people to work with. So
I think the class sizes are intimidating for maybe a week or two. But then after a while, it's just kind of, for me at least, I just kind of tuned out what was going on around me. If there's like a couple hundred people around me, and I was just, able to focus on the content. So like, it's almost just like divorcing yourself from like what's going on around you. And that helps to really channel your focus. And then that way, for me at least, I was able to adapt a lot quicker.
I would like to say
one thing. I totally agree. And I feel like, oh, sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think sometimes larger class sizes are more helpful, especially when, it's your off day, you haven't done the reading, and there's like 299 other people who can answer the question for you. So that's definitely a benefit of it.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing. Sometimes it's really nice to be in a big class. You don't feel as much pressure on you. And then when you have questions, you normally have that discussion section with just like 20 people where you can make friends and you can ask as many questions as you want. So similarly, someone was asking, how often do the professors come to you to follow up on assignments and check in on your progress? In my experience, it doesn't really happen. But if you are curious about your progress, or you are curious about how you're doing on it in assignments, you can definitely go to office hours, or you can individually ask the professor. But in college, in my experience, normally the professors, I mean, you do what you do, and the professors are just there to like grade it, basically. Does anyone else have any input on that?
Yeah, college is like professors really aren't going to come to you. Like college is a time for you to like learn and like be responsible and like, you know, just take on that extra notch of like responsibility. And that's a little bit of a learning curve, because no one's going to say, hey, you need to turn this in or whatever. It's all on you. But I think that has a lot of benefits in the long term. So, you know, like Sakshi said, if you want to go to office hours to get help on something, I would really recommend that. That's a great way to like make connections and stuff. But yeah, you just have to really like have good discipline and make sure you complete your assignments.
I would say though, however, I have had like TAs in the past, not to me, but like to other students, noticed, oh, they're not coming or they're not turning in their assignments, and they reach out. TAs are usually pretty good for that. Unless unfortunately you have a bad TA, but I've been fortunate enough to have some pretty gracious ones that are like welcoming and open, and they know your name and they recognize you. So that's nice.
Awesome, thank you. So the next question is, where did you make your first friends at UCLA? Was it in classes, dorms, campus? I can go first and say that my first friends at UCLA were my roommates. And after that, I made a lot of friends in clubs on campus. There's like a huge club fair in fall quarter, like right when you, like the first few days that you're at UCLA. And it's a great place to like try different clubs. You can like, you don't have to commit to anything. And so you can meet a lot of people that way.
Okay, sorry. I agree. Like roommates definitely were my first friends. You want to make sure that you find really good roommates, because you're going to be living with them, like, and be around them so much. So make sure that you get along with them. For me, I have like a pretty like small social circle, and like, but like I've been able to like meet a lot of people through clubs, like Sakshi said. I don't typically meet a lot of people through classes, because I'm just usually like pretty like focused. But discussions have a pretty like talkative environment that you can meet people that way. But I think roommates are a really good place to start, and then naturally your social network is gonna grow from there.
For me, my first friends were in the freshman summer program offered by the Academic Advancement Program, which is for like students of marginalized backgrounds or low income backgrounds. And I was able to make my friends there. I was like kind of friends with my roommates fall quarter, like, you know, we coexisted. I didn't hate them, but I definitely didn't like click with them like other people did. But this is gonna sound crazy, but I've made a lot of friends in this pandemic via Twitter. Several times now I've gone into like discussions or classes, and the person will be like, I think I follow you on Twitter. And it's quite interesting, but UCLA Twitter and UCLA social media is elite. If you have social media, I highly recommend just starting following people. It's also a way they usually follow you back. They're pretty nice. And then, yeah.
My first friends were my roommates as well, and also people from the summer program before my freshman year. You know, we were all just trying to figure out how college worked, and you know where to go for food and everything like that. And then we just all kind of stayed in touch. You know, followed each other on Instagram. So yeah.
Awesome. And to Nick's point about having good roommates. I just want to mention that I had 2 random roommates. I did a summer program before freshman year, and my fall roommates, 4 random roommates, and they were all really good friends of mine. So you can have good random roommates. Don't be afraid of it. Okay, then we had a question for me about why I chose UCLA over a school that was closer to home or a nearby state. And then you guys can talk about this too, about why you chose UCLA and not other UCs that were closer to home. For me, UCLA was just like a very exciting opportunity. I just knew it was completely different than whatever was in my hometown. And I really wanted that opportunity to try something new and to grow. And just like, I was excited to live in a city, honestly. Like, I was kind of bored of my same hometown because I was born and raised there. Once I went to UCLA, I became a little homesick, but yeah, I was just really excited about the opportunity, and it's a really good school. And now being back on the East Coast, having that UCLA degree really makes a difference because not a lot of UCLA grads are on the East Coast. So it really is appealing to employers. Does anyone else want to answer? Okay. I think you guys kind of talked about it with your last question about like why you chose UCLA. Let's see. Someone was saying dorm versus renting an outside apartment, which is better, which is more comfortable. Does anyone have experience with that?
I actually do. So I just was struggling financially my first year. My parents were like, we're not helping you out. I said, okay. I was placed in a Plaza Triple, which is a little bit more expensive than the Classic Triple, and I could barely afford the Classic Triple. So after my fall quarter in the dorms, I decided to move off campus into an apartment where I just signed a 6-month lease. And honestly, it was great, like having your own space, your own bathroom. And like due to like some things like CalFresh, which is where like EBT, where you can, sign up to receive money each month for groceries, that definitely helped. And it definitely helped me grow up. I wouldn't exactly recommend it for my first year, just because it was a little bit, every single class I had to walk a little farther than people coming from the hill, and it like wore me out trying to cook breakfast and lunch and dinner all the time. And people don't talk about how stressful it is to plan 3 meals in a day. But I mean, if that's something that you have to do financially, I'd say it definitely does help because it is significantly less money than living in the dorms. But I would definitely recommend for everyone for at least their first year, if possible, considering the pandemic, to be in the dorms the entire year.
Yeah, I think dorms are the best place to start. You're going to meet a lot of people in the dorms, and and just being on campus, just walking around, whatever, going to events, and it's just one less thing to worry about if you're in the dorms, because it's like I can just go get food whenever I want. I don't have to cook it. I don't have to shop. I don't have to whatever. But second year and third year and whatever, I would say I would recommend getting an apartment, because after a little bit of time, you kind of get sick of the dorms, even though it's nice, and you want a little more space. And so there's a lot of benefits to living in an apartment, but definitely save it for your second year or so until you can get established and find some people that you want to live with.
I just wanted to add that dorms, I agree, dorms are super important. It's a great way to narrow down the amount of people around you and find some really great friends that you see every day and you get to hang out with when you're not in classes.
Totally. And yeah, I would add that I think most first year, probably every single first year lives in the dorms, probably a vast majority of second years, and then third years, I think, begin to taper off a bit more. So living in the dorms is kind of the norm. Let's see. Someone asked, how many advisors do you have each year on average? I don't think there are like particular advisors assigned to you exactly in my experience. But there are like departmental advisors for like whatever your major is. And there's like career center and stuff. So you kind of have to find the advisors. They're easy to find, but they're not like assigned to you. You have to kind of seek them out. Does anyone else have experience with that?
I had a little bit of a hard time figuring out the whole advisor system, and I still haven't actually met with like a departmental advisor. I've met with peer advisors, which they were pretty helpful because a lot of them are students or grad students, so they know what it's like to be a student and they can answer really specific questions. But yeah, you don't really like get to like, it's hard. It can be hard to get an appointment with an advisor. You don't get assigned someone. And that was something that like I had to get used to a little bit, because in high school, if I wanted an appointment with my advisor, I could just like schedule it, and the next day like I could see them. So yeah, that can be a little tricky when you're trying to navigate UCLA at first.
Sakshi, I can add to this question. So I work in the college academic advising department. So what everyone said so far is right. You're not assigned an academic advisor, but there are so many different kinds of advisors at UCLA, like Nick talked about. You can see graduate students who are trained to talk to you and do academic advising. You can see peer advisors, and you can see full-time academic advisors depending on the department you're into. But you do want to be strategic on planning, like when you want to go see an academic advisor and who you reach out to, and when, because there are certain times of the quarter that are busier than others.
Totally. Could everyone repeat their majors one more time for the group? I'm a global studies major.
I'm an African American studies major with a public affairs minor, but I was previously an economics major. So I know about the navigation of that as like with the lower division courses.
I'm a psychology major. I also have changed my major a couple times. I came in as geography actually, and then changed to anthropology, but now I'm psychology, and I've decided on that. I'm going to stick with it. So
I'm a psychology major, but I also came in as a marine bio major, or I also changed my major. So I do have a little bit of experience about the lower division courses in marine bio as well.
Yeah, I think it's pretty common for people to change their majors, and it's normally pretty easy. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Someone asked, how long did it take you to adapt to UCLA? For me, it honestly didn't take very long, probably just a couple of weeks, because you really can make it feel smaller. You get like a group of friends, or you're spending a lot of time with your roommates, and it just kind of eases you into it. It wasn't overwhelming for me personally, but does anyone else have an experience with that?
yeah, for me, it was like actually pretty overwhelming, but I know a lot of people it wasn't at all. I'm just someone who's a little bit more introverted and reserved, and so with big changes, I take a little bit more time to adapt. But I would say like by the end of my first quarter, I was like pretty much like mostly adapted, and then like second quarter, I was like really like expanding like my bubble and like finding like a lot of organizations and stuff that I was interested in. But honestly, like as much as I can say, like I've adapted now and I feel like comfortable at UCLA. As far as like expanding, like I'm still expanding my circle and like exploring new opportunities. So that part, like at least for me, it hasn't really ended so far, which is really exciting. You just continue to grow and grow throughout your time here.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know if I get to get gotten, please. Okay, I don't know if I've ever gotten used to UCLA. Like it's sometimes I have to like remind myself like 30,000 students go here. And it's like crazy sometimes like you'll see us on the news. I'm like, oh, like this isn't just like some college, like it's UCLA. But in terms of just like navigating classes, going, the campus and all that stuff, it probably took me like the entire like fall quarter, just getting used to, having finals one week, midterms and all that stuff. That took me the quarter. But I think, yeah, what Nick was saying, it's you're always, expanding to new things, meeting new people. But I think that's one of the amazing things about it. That's definitely what I liked about like my high school. Instead, this is what I tell people, like we go to a school with 31,000 students. If you don't like someone, move on. You don't like your major, change it. You don't like your org, leave. Like there's just so many things in which you can do. And like that's one of the best things about it.
I would say it took me a little bit longer to adapt, just because of how different my hometown high school was in UCLA. But in terms of like the city, I was ready to come back to UCLA after winter break. I was pretty much, that was it. But in terms of academics, definitely there was always more opportunities I was finding out about. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you. The next question is kind of related. At one point during your college experience, did you feel like you had fully grown up? Personally, I'm not there yet. I feel like I grew up a lot in the first couple of months. Like it was my first time living alone and I was across the country, but I still feel pretty often like I have a lot to learn. I've definitely grown a lot at my time in UCLA, but I still have a year and a little bit. So hopefully I'll grow some more too.
I don't know. I kind of feel like with what Saxi was saying, like I'm still like growing a lot, and I feel like I learned a lot my first year about myself and life. There's just so much to learn, like things you don't even realize that you have to learn. But like honestly, like quote unquote growing up, like I can't say that like I feel fully grown up yet, because I know there is still a lot to learn. And honestly, I was in a rush to grow up, but like now it's like I don't want to grow up. Like you can still be a kid, you can still like enjoy yourself and like all that stuff, and you just have to learn how to like manage it and like be mature when it matters, and make sure that you're responsible and disciplined and stuff. And like I don't know, I feel like a lot of college students want to grow up quickly, but then it's just like slow down, like enjoy the moment, and like you'll get there and do like before you even realize it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I'm grown yet. Haven't reached that moment. Like maybe I signed a lease, but I still don't have a credit card. So like, like what is it? But yeah, I mean, there are some points in time in which I'll like look back at what I've done, or I'll like reflect on the moment. I'm like, okay, like let's go. But then there's other times when, it's just like it's nice to just I'm 19, so sometimes it's just nice to be 19, you still have much to grow, much to learn. And I think one of the most important things about growing up, quote unquote, is just always being open to learning more, and experiencing more and expanding your horizons. And, just getting to know yourself as well outside of, your parents' home or whoever you stay with, and outside of, your city or your town, I think. So it's an never-ending journey to growing up.
I agree with what everyone has said. I definitely don't feel like I have grown up yet. but I do sometimes find myself thinking, oh, wow, that was a really adult thing of me to do. So definitely still learning and growing as college experience.
Awesome. So the next question is, how difficult is it to navigate internships and career opportunities in LA as someone from a small town? In my experience with this, it really hasn't made a difference being from a small town. I feel like, you have a UCLA degree as much as anyone else, and that's what gives you the advantage in the internship search. Sometimes it's hard to put yourself out there, and you're thinking, oh, I'd like to work there, but there's no way that I get it. But just apply. You got into UCLA, you can just shoot your shot. And the UCLA Career Center is actually really good. They'll help you build a resume or look over yours. They'll help you with individual cover letters when you're applying to jobs. And so if you're feeling self-conscious about your application, or you feel like you're lacking something being from a small town, they can definitely help you spruce it up and give you some confidence going in. Does anyone else have experience with this?
Yeah, I'm actually just doing this right now, applying to as many internships as I can in hopes of securing one. I think it's sometimes being from a smaller area gives you a leg up, not because you're from the small area, but more because you understand there are so many opportunities, and that mentality of, oh, I want to take advantage of me being here and me being at UCLA rather than where I'm from. And yeah, there are lots of organizations that you can, join that have opportunities. I was able to secure an internship and then a job from there, from being a part of a business organization on campus. And I was gonna say, and yeah, I think, yeah, it's a great thing. It's UCLA has a lot of resources to navigate. You can sign up for newsletters to receive notifications about opportunities and all that stuff. A lot of organizations have workshops and all that stuff. So it's just more about you finding them and getting in tune with those organizations and clubs and those opportunities.
Yeah, definitely subscribe to newsletters. Sometimes you'll automatically be subscribed through your major or your college or whatever. I get one from the psychology department every week. It's just so many opportunities, and even if you just find one, that newsletter is worth it. And there opportunities will come to you. There's a lot of things that you'll just naturally come across, but definitely don't be afraid to do some digging, and look for things, because it can be tough to find things. I don't think being from a small town has been a negative in any way. If anything, I think it might be a positive, because I don't know, there's at least in my experience in my small town, I grew up with a lot of a really down to earth people, welcoming, kind, appreciative people, and that has definitely shaped me. And people are always wow, you always say please or thank you, all these things, and those little things are really overlooked. And you want to, carry those on. And I don't know if it's given me a leg up in any way, but I think people recognize the little things. So.
And definitely don't be afraid to, talk to your professors. They really do want to help you. I know my first experience, I wasn't really, I didn't really feel like, I could go to them, but they definitely just want to help you, and they can connect you with so many of their other colleagues and network. And also, I think being from a small town, I get to utilize my small town network that I've made here. So I think that's really important benefit of being from a small town.
Totally. Someone asked if we have friends in the Midwest, and I just wanted to touch on this quickly since I am the president of the Out-of-State Student Association. We have a ton of people from the Midwest. I think we probably have more people from Chicago than any other area of the United States. And besides that, there's also people from like Michigan and Indiana. So in Ohio, lots of people from Ohio. So you'll definitely find your place. Someone asked for undecided students, like undecided majors, how difficult is it to transfer from one school to the other? And they gave the example of College of Letters and Sciences to business econ, and business econ is actually in the College of Letters and Science. And so, I mean, College of Letters and Science, it's like basically every major. It's like everything from biology to English, business econ, like everything. Besides that, there's like the School of Engineering, School of Film and Television. And so those are kind of harder to transfer in between. But so switching from College of Letters and Sciences to College of Engineering is a little bit tricky, I've heard. I don't know if any of you guys have experience with that, but I've heard it's easier to switch out of engineering into College of Letters and Science, but it can be really hard to switch into engineering. Do you guys kind of agree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree, but I'd say that like you guys have a leg up now since you haven't started anything to maybe do the research into that. You could probably literally just Google it and find some type of answer in terms of that. And maybe if there needs to be preparation, like, I don't know, maybe suddenly you're like, I should have applied as an art major. I think you can actually, like, even though it is a little bit more difficult, it's just about the preparation and the research and probably meeting with someone in the advising council to get that started.
Right. But within like your call, like within Letters and Science, it's super easy to switch majors. I'm pretty sure you can just do it online without talking to anyone. So yeah, don't worry at all about that. Another question was, do you go off campus much? And if so, is it hard to navigate the city and to navigate it safely? Anyone want to do that one?
I love going off campus. Like, I think one of the great things about like going to LA was being able to explore like the best parts of it. Honestly, Google Maps or Maps on iPhone, hands down, it's so, I'm hoping everyone has access to some type of phone, or even that you can literally just print out a schedule or something. I say it's pretty easy to navigate. I've never felt like unsafe or anything. Of course, it is a larger city, so you're gonna encounter people from various backgrounds with various things, but of course, as long as you should typically go with a friend. I don't recommend like going out on your own, especially like when you first get to UCLA. Of course, once you're more comfortable, do what you want, but I'd say it's pretty easy to navigate. The only like thing I have to say is that public transportation does take forever, like to get to downtown. It's like it's basically a trek. You have a whole day plan. You better bring some snacks. But I think, yeah, I highly recommend everyone to take the time to explore it. Like you can take a bus from like outside of UCLA all the way to Malibu to like the Getty Villa, or you can take it downtown to do things downtown. I don't know, Grand Central Market. There's lots of things, and it's been pretty good.
Really quick, y'all, this is Shalori. I'll add to that a little bit, is that with your Bruin card, sometimes there's discounts on, I believe, the Big Blue bus, which can take you to Santa Monica and some other places. And there's also, if you live on what we call the Hill, for example, which is where the residence halls are, there used to be a trolley or sometimes bus services that are purchased, and they can take you to Santa Monica to see the pier, or sometimes downtown LA. And it just really depends on what are the students interested in at that time of the year. Sometimes they take them over even to just Target, to do some shopping. So they usually do that, I think once or twice a month on Saturdays. I don't know if they will have it again this coming school year, but they've done it in the past. For example, but I want to double back to one question and then share some resources, and then we will answer a couple more questions. Scott Wilson from Admissions actually wanted to go back to answer the question about switching college from college to engineering. So he was going to answer that, and then I'll share some resources and we'll answer a couple more questions. Scott, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I saw a question in the chat about switching from the college into the engineering school. So if you're in a specialty school currently, so engineering or nursing or one of our art schools, and you decide that's not for you and you want to switch into the college, as we've talked about, that's pretty easy to do. However, switching from the college into one of our specialty schools is a little more complicated. For nursing and theater, film, and television, they actually don't allow current UCLA students to transfer into those schools. That's one thing to note. For arts and architecture and music, it is a possibility, but you still have to go through their audition or portfolio process. And then for engineering, it's also a possibility. However, it's not very common that that happens. So there are particular courses you have to take and a particular GPA that you have to meet in order to be admitted into the engineering school. Usually, sometimes students ask, well, and at least this is during the application process, can I just come into UCLA college and I can just automatically switch my major into engineering? And the answer to that is no. It's more difficult to do that. So again, it is a possibility to switch from the college into engineering, but it won't be an automatic process. It will take you a little bit of time to take some of the required coursework to meet that GPA requirement. They also require all students who want to switch into engineering to go to a change of major workshop so that they understand what the requirements are going to be. So that's a little bit more insight into how that process would work.
Thank you, Scott. Y'all, before we answer a few more questions, I just wanted to share some resources with you. Folks have asked questions about homesickness, living in the residence halls, and then I also have a couple of stories of other Bruins, why they chose UCLA, how they manage homesickness, extracurricular activities, and then even navigating finances in college. So I'm just going to drop a link to a Google Drive in the chat for everyone. That way you will have access to that. And then later I'll share my screen and you can just take a picture of the QR code and have access to that as well. So again, these are like 5 main resources from the Out-of-State Student Association. And then if you have more like questions about the first year experience office or anything like that, you can, hold on, let me copy and paste this as well. You can check out the FYE or first year experience website. And then if you do, which we hope, choose to become Bruins, please join the Small Town Bruin Facebook group as well. So I'm gonna pause myself and then take it back to the student panelists to answer a few more questions before we wrap up.
Okay, awesome. So, okay. Someone asked if any of us experienced climate shock because they live in a really cold climate. I don't know about you guys. I know some people from the Northeast, and they were saying that they just like loved going to LA because they could just enjoy the sun, and it made a really big difference on their mood. And for me, I'm from South Carolina, so I have a pretty moderate climate. We do have like winter, we'll get snow like twice a year maybe. So I really did miss having seasons. It kind of like was jarring for me. Every day felt the same sometimes because the weather was so continuous. Like sometimes it'd be 75 and we'd be going on Christmas break like the next day, and I didn't like that at all. But I would say overall the benefits outweigh the costs because it is just like lovely. The sun is so nice and it definitely puts you in a really good mood all the time. Another question. Someone was asking like if they can take, okay, this is a very specific question. Even though you can't, okay, I think it's going to be covered in the chat.
Yeah, Scott, I was going to tap Scott for that in that as well.
Yeah, I can say it out loud. So maybe it's a little bit easier to say over instead of just typing it. So if you are in a specialty program, some of them don't allow you to do a double major. Theater, film, and television is one of them, but you can do a minor. If you are put into or you declare a minor and you're admitted into the minor, there are specific courses you have to take to meet the requirements to get that minor. You, of course, will be able to get into those courses. For anything that's not listed on the minors, you may or may not be able to get into that course. It's really going to depend on the course that you're trying to get into. So some courses are going to be closed to majors only. And so if you are trying to do that, you could reach out to the professor and see if they have space in the class. You could maybe audit the course as well. So there's some different ways you could go about it, but it will really be on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, Sky. I think that answered that question. Were there any other questions? Anything else, y'all, before we share some resources and wrap up? I'll share my screen briefly.
Oh, we have one more quick question. In one word, how would you describe the overall social or academic atmosphere of UCLA compared to your lives back home? I would just say it's exciting. Would any of you guys like to say something?
Active.
Yeah, busy. Definitely busy.
Maybe like motivation. I don't know if it's like more motivated.
Awesome, thank you. Shori?
Does UCLA have room for single or double rooms for first years? You know what? I'll answer that question. As of right now, I think the goal is to be able to have doubles, but we're actually not sure. So I would pay attention to the Ask Housing option as well as the housing website, because things are changing daily. But I know the goal for the fall is to have doubles at this time. Now, singles are sometimes far and few between, are really, really challenging, to be honest, especially for first year. So we have a combination of suites where you live in one room by yourself, but you share a bathroom maybe with like 8 or 10 other people, just a variety. So that would be like a shared suite as an example. So I would check the housing website and see what's most up to date as we get a little bit closer as well. Let me briefly share my screen with you all. And if you can check out the chat, I believe, Sashki, excuse me, sorry, I'm coughing, also shared in the chat where you all can sign up for a listserv. Here we have the Facebook group as well as the FYE website. Let me go back. Hold on one second. If you want to go ahead and just wait a moment, if you want to take a quick photo of the QR code, these are all the resources from the Out-of-State Student Association, as I shared before. So you all will have access to those. And again, it's like 5 PDFs where it's like finances, how to deal with literally like just like the adjustment and like some stories from other Bruins. So a lot of those resources there, and even what is it like to live in the residence hall. So a lot of stuff, how to navigate those things, and tips curated by students like yourselves are in there. And then thank you all so much, and we hope to be able to see you in the fall. I think there might be one more question, and I can stay around if needed. But thank you everybody for coming. We really hope you all have a good rest of your quarter or your semester. And a round of applause for our amazing moderator and panelists, and Scott and Sabrina for like just jumping in and answering questions, and Helen and Mike, and then for all of you all for just being here and being comfortable to step up and ask questions.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for coming. And we hope that if you come to UCLA, you'll join our Rural Bruins community too.
Yeah. If you've SIR, join the Facebook group. Let us know that you've done it so we can celebrate with you. Have a good night, everyone. I'll stop recording. Yeah, go Bruins. Oh, we should have done an 8 clap. We haven't done those in a long time.